All right, this video is with Skip Sligh, and he breaks down how to expand your search parameters in order to find the ideal farm. And he also talks about some of the struggles of being a first-time landowner. Hope you guys enjoy this video. Let's go ahead and get right into it. Here we go.
Having flexibility in real estate, whether it's the distance, the money, the size, how you buy it, negotiating things with the seller within reason, the more flexible you are, the better.
Do you have any negotiation tips? Give us a secret sauce.
So if you're in a position where you don't have to have something, you're not married to a certain piece that you want to buy, it doesn't have to be that piece. If you don't get so emotionally attached to it, you're going to be in a far better spot. Now, if I'm a farmer that has a farm come up for sale next to me that hasn't been for sale in 50 years, and I know 3 of the other neighbors are going to buy it, I am just in a corner. And I'm probably just going to have to do whatever it takes, and that's why these auctions get run crazy high. But if I'm willing to say, hey, I'm willing to go in a 2-hour radius, and I'm going to put 5 farms on my radar that I'm interested in, and I'm going to start bidding on these 5 farms, and maybe it's 2, maybe it's 3, maybe it's 20, but you just have to be able to lose some of those farms and be like, you know what, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. I used to get somewhat bent out of shape when I missed out on a great farm, like kind of bummed out or had to have that would have been a killer deal. Now, if I bid on a farm, if it doesn't work out or if the seller's hard to deal with, I just walk away and it doesn't even bother me. Or if I lose out on it, like, hey, there's another guy bidding on this. Okay, if he buys it, that's fine. And they're not feeding me a bunch of baloney. There's oftentimes is other buyers, and I just look at it like, you know, if somebody else buys it, that's great. Fine, no big deal. I don't lose any sleep over it. It doesn't really bother me. I'll just move on to the next one. So, you know, and right now, if I buy another farm, great. If I don't buy anything for another couple years, I'm okay with that too. I don't have to have a farm. But for a new buyer, you know, that says I do need to have a farm, I want to have a farm, just give yourself as much flexibility. If you lose out on 5 farms and you get the 6th one, you will have something. If you have your mindset to it, you have the money, you have the structure set up to buy a farm, it maybe takes you 6, it might take you 10 farms. You will get it, so just don't get bent out of shape if you lose some.
Mm-hmm. You always had the goal of wanting to buy land for a really long time. When you bought that first 80, was it like a, you know, like is an excitement, like that's supposed to be like the heavens opening?
It was pretty cool. It was the greatest farm on earth. We were going to shoot just countless monsters off of there every year. Nobody could screw up our hunts. We were just, I mean, never to be sold. So, yeah, it was the greatest farm on earth. And, you know, I basically talked to the bank, and I'm like, okay, I got to come up with this much per month. So there's a little pressure there. And that ended up being actually pretty easy. But right when I signed those papers, I'm like, ooh, I actually got to come up with this each month. That was a little nerve-wracking when I signed it. 6 months into it, piece of cake. And then I realized, we're not shooting just countless giant bucks off here. This isn't maybe quite as easy as what I thought. And, you know, like we talked on the last podcast, I mean, you know, my forever farm turned into maybe I won't keep this forever. It took a couple years.
Yeah, the shininess.
It wore off.
Yeah,
it wore off.
Yeah, I'm not there yet. I'm still madly.
It takes a while, and I know people who did buy that first farm that never parted with it. They're like, I married this farm, and 20 years later, you know, maybe it's an 80 acres, and you know, for some people that's the right thing. And
yeah.
Buying and selling farms or moving or if they're in a location they like, you know, this isn't for everybody. Land ownership isn't for everybody. There's a major percentage of the population that owning land is not for them. You got to be wired kind of a certain way, and you got to be able to. There's a lot of other things that come with land ownership that people don't realize, the stresses and.
So talk about some of those.
I mean, you know, worrying about people being in your land, the trespassing, the poaching, the property tax increases, the weather. You know, when I hunted by permission, I didn't care what the weather was because I was going here in this state during October, and I was going to go there in November. I didn't pay any attention. Now I'm growing things. Now I'm farming. Now my livelihood is dependent on it. So there's all these other things that come in, and dealing with the neighbors and not getting along with this one and getting along with this one. Thankfully, where I'm at now, I mean, I get along great with all of my neighbors. when I started, when I was a young guy, I didn't get along with all the neighbors. I was a young punk. They looked at me as this young punk in his young 20s.
Were you a punk?
Not really. Maybe a little. I mean, I was naive. I totally admit it. I was very naive. But that was the first time I ever owned land. I didn't understand how things worked. I didn't understand fence agreements and keeping up with your fence and cattle and how things shook out with neighbors. And, a lot of these neighbors were 30 years older than me and thought I was a young punk and thought Daddy gave him his money, and they just kind of, I would say maybe a couple of them I didn't start out on the right foot. And I was very naive. I was just naive, but probably to be expected with somebody in their young 20s. Most people in their young 20s are kind of naive, and a lot of them are kind of stupid in certain ways, and I maybe fit into that category. So
I hope you guys enjoyed this. My name is Jake Hofer, and I'm a real estate agent out of the state of Illinois, and it's my goal to help 100 people buy their first farm. Been doing that with the Land Podcast and clips like this every single Thursday and Saturday that are released here on the channel. And to be one of those 100 people, all you have to do is, if you're in the state of Illinois and I can help you, I'd be happy to do so. Number 2, if you want to get connected with someone that can help you, reach out, and I'll be happy to get you in contact with an agent that I would personally do business with. And the last one is, if you just simply learn something from the content we're putting out, or you get inspired to take action, I want to know, get you out of that spreadsheet. I'm on a mission to help 100 people. Until next time, see ya.